Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Judy of Dr. Judy WTF with the Freud. And tonight's topic is going to be a kind of an interesting, wild one, fun one. We're going to analyze it from a mind map perspective. And the topic is about tattoos, piercings, and body morphic. Body morphing. Before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about the mind map because we're going to analyze this process through the mind map system. So if you're tuning in for the first time, for those of you who don't know anything about the mind map, it is a system that I created back in the early 2000s. And originally it was meant to be a system for healing global disconnect. And then it became a micro model for healing human disconnect. And we're also going to talk about tattoos and disconnect from a point of view of why people use them as a way to either disconnect actually and to connect both. So the mind map, if you don't mind putting that up, thank you so much, is a system of healing. It's a system of identifying childhood wounds and how we react to them and how we encode them. And there are 5 childhood wounds that are most prominently identifiable. And those wounds are physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal emotional abuse, smothering, and neglect. And in terms of this particular topic, and I hope you do call in because this is a call-in show, everybody. And the number to call in to is 323-843-2826. This is a topic by request. I actually do listen. If you have a topic that you'd like to have me speak upon, please do write to me at Dr. Judy at psychologicalhealingcenter.com. And I will take it very seriously. And if it's a topic that I feel is relevant to the rest of the audience, I will speak on it. And I think this is very relevant because the number of people getting tattoos is increasing and gaining popularity worldwide and very much so in the United States. So again, going back to the mind map, we have a system of healing that tracks wounds of childhood, how we react to them, and how they are encoded in our self-esteem, our core belief department. And depending on how this messaging goes, we then get tripped up in life by somebody hurting our feelings, an incident, a trauma that then activates this panel 3 or negative core belief and then takes us on a very painful, chaotic ride that I refer to as the WTF, or what Freud referred to as the repetition compulsion. And so then, as a result of these childhood wounds and activations of these core beliefs, we break down into chaos. We try to defend. That sometimes doesn't work out too well for us, especially if the defenses are not too healthy. And then we further blow out, this kind of like a tire blows, and then we either implode or explode into breakdown. The purpose, of course, of the mind map therapy is to have a breakthrough as opposed to having a breakdown. And that's why when we get through this process, because it's a from the past through the chaos of the here and now to a paradigm shift, when we get through the process, we end up in a paradigm shift where we encode fresh information, we encode mental health, we encode a new way of being, a new way of seeing life, a new way of seeing oneself, and that gets us on the pathway of creating a much more stable internal and external environment for ourselves. So with that said, first of all, I want to thank June for suggesting the topic. And June, you're free to call in. I'm going to try to balance information with answering questions. So I want to start with a little bit of cross-cultural information about tattoos, since this show is directed toward going global, cross-cultural, and deeper. And so here's a little bit of history. The origin and tradition of tattooing in island cultures. The style of tattooing, referred to as tribal tattoos, has an incredibly long tradition reaching back over thousands of years. Many of these tattoos are familiar today, and in particular, they point to a uniqueness or particular culture or subculture differentiating one culture from the other. So, for one, as you can see by the history, it's a form of belonging, and it's a form of differentiating oneself from one tribe from another. The purpose of the tattoo in tribal culture is very complicated. In general, it pertains to wearers are members of a specific tribe, and they do display their social status, and in some cases they are used in medicinal and religious rituals. So it's very interesting to understand the backdrop of these tattoos and body piercings and see how it's morphed over the years and see how we're using it today. So depending on the design elements used in these tattoos, they told a story. The tattoos told stories of warriors, and in these stories, animals and nature-inspired designs were included. And these tattoos also illustrated a warrior's strength and prowess in battle. And also, if they were engaged in being fishermen or partaking in sea activities, they would also include tattoos of water. So you can see that through these tattoos, there's a sense of identification, a sense of belonging, a sense of spiritual connection, a sense of connection to whatever it is that they were engaged in, whether it be battle or fishing. And so very, very significant to the people who wore these tattoos. So before there were tattoo guns, they used black ink, and this black ink was delivered into the skin made of hollow, they used objects such as hollow needles, bamboo, bone, porcupine quill, and other natural materials. And usually the local pigment was red, yellow, and oftentimes and mostly black. And today we could see that the color palette is pretty full. It's not just yellow, red, and black. It's every color in the rainbow. So these tattoos were now morphing from the old style to modern style. And placement on the body was also of importance because it symbolized the wearer's status. It was very common to see patterns and woven looks and so on, and now we've gone away from that, and pretty much anything goes. So it's not as specific as it used to be. Modern tribal tattoos are more aesthetic in nature than they are necessarily symbolic. And sometimes they are symbolic, and we're going to get into the psychological significance of these tattoos. But you can now see that the common backdrop is these tattoos that signify spiritual messages, sense of belonging, sense of status, and so on. So, body piercing, another form of body morphing, is obviously gaining in popularity and socially acceptable in the U.S. over the many recent years, particularly today. A recent study of American college students found that 60% of women and 42% of men were pierced. This is according to Katz, Elsner, and Bauer, study done in 2008. Common piercing sites include, as we know, the ears, most commonly, the nose, the tongue, eyebrows, lips, nipples, navel, genitals, I guess really any site. And this is research according to Larkin in 2004. And I think now it's really anywhere on the body. While some engage in piercing for the fashion, for others it's a way to take control of their bodies, especially after being violated. And so I want to quote something here from a rape victim. She says, "I'm getting pierced to reclaim my body. I've been used and abused. My body was taken by another without my consent. Now, by the ritual of piercing, I claim my body as my own. I heal my wounds." So this is a very interesting perspective, because somebody that was violated by another now takes full control of her body, and she says, well, if anybody's going to pierce my body, penetrate my body, mark on my body, it's going to be me. So you can see how the tattoo or whatever she decided to do to her body is now a symbol of taking control over her body. Tattooing has likewise grown in popularity over the last decade, with an estimated 10% of Americans sporting tattoos, according to Katz, Elsner, and Bowser. So it is obviously on the increase. And again, this is a call-in show, everybody, so please feel free to call in, 323-843-2826. I want to talk a little bit about, first I want to talk about my experience with my patients and how tattoos play into my analysis of them in the treatment room. And I always notice their tattoos, and sometime in the course of the treatment, I will ask people about their tattoos, because their tattoos are very significant to them. And I definitely find that these tattoos tell a story, and sometimes the story includes a story of significance of a loss. For example, sometimes I notice that people have tattooed faces of people that have died onto their bodies as a way to immortalize them, as a way to remember them, as a way to connect with them, so that they have a way to bridge that loss. Sometimes I notice that the tattoos bear a different type of significance. Sometimes I see tattoos of tears dripping down people's faces. Oftentimes this is a symbol of a gang member, and sometimes it's a symbol of not such pleasant messages to signify that these tears, to me, I'm just going to kind of free associate to that symbol, that the tears are frozen, that they don't flow, that they're going to cause tears, because that's a form of projection. If people are not feeling well, they're going to project their pain on others, and it sometimes can look very, very scary. I recall a situation where a gentleman came into my office and he was full body tattooed. And so after discovering his panel 1 wounds, we came to significant wounds of childhood, wounds such as abandonment, wounds such as physical abuse and emotional abuse. And as I thought about his tattoos from a mind map point of view, of course, I started thinking about what I talk most about in this system of healing, the idea of human disconnect, and how painful it is to be abandoned or physically abused or verbally abused, and how when we don't have what I refer to as attachment style parenting, John Bowlby skin-to-skin contact, which is something that Dr. John Bowlby talked about in terms of how to create a healthy human psyche, which includes eye contact, skin contact, breastfeeding, emotional attunement, skin to skin. And so I noticed that people in general, and this is not always the case, but people who bear many, many tattoos and just cover their bodies with tattoos oftentimes have a lot of wounds of childhood. And in thinking about it, it seems it makes sense to me, because when we're not touched, when we're not properly nourished, we want to have something that coats our skin. Because if we never had the human touch to coat our skin, then it would make sense that we want these symbols and these patterns to have that skin-to-skin kind of contact. So that's my take on it, and I'd like to hear your view on it. And of course, that's not the only way to look at it, but that is one way to look at it from a mind map perspective. And so there are other studies that support ideas that in some cases, tattoos represent wounds of childhood and symptoms of anxiety and so forth, and I'll get into those studies. And please feel free to call in. And this is a call-in show, 323-843-2826. And for those of you who do not know, my mind map video series is now complete. And if you would be so kind as to put that up, thank you. Now anybody can do the mind map system in a very affordable fashion. And if you go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com or drjudywtf.com, and you go to resources and scroll down to mind map video series, you'll see a complete description there, and you can do it in the privacy of your own home. Many, many hours of all the panels working from through to the wounds of childhood, through deconstructing them. Of course, I lead the course on the mind map system, and it comes with the book, it comes with the journal, it comes with a lot of very interesting pieces of the puzzle so that you can heal in the privacy of your home. So do check that out. So going back to the subject of tattooing, we now see that studies suggest that individuals who are moderately to heavily tattooed, in some cases, they have feelings of increased sense of self-confidence after having pierced or tattooed their bodies. That's according to Carroll and Anderson, a study they did in 2002. So when I'm thinking about it from that point of view, it seems that with the state of affairs of our world, the state of human disconnect, we need to increase our self-esteem, because when we're disconnected from, we hurt and we isolate and we become we become depressed and disconnected from others and ourselves. And so when we put that symbol on our skin, somehow some people get a sense of power, a sense of adrenaline rush from this, and then feel a surge of self-esteem. Another way tattoos function is, as I had mentioned before, a way of commemorating something or moving on. So, for example, people might get a tattoo to commemorate their marriage, and then the tattoo could say something like, "I love you forever, Martha," with a big heart around it, and Martha and Sam forever, for example. And so these tattoos become very significant because they may also bear the date of the wedding. They may also include a picture of the husband and the wife. They may also include the picture of the children that they together created. And so it becomes a way to skin their family right onto the body. Another way tattoos commemorate is a commemoration of moving on. So perhaps they may have a tattoo of a breakup. So they may even cross the name out of the person that they were committed to. And so now the tattoo has a cross over the Mary or the Martha or the Sam or the Henry. And so you see people using these tattoos in many, many ways. It's not uncommon for trauma victims, those with disabilities or serious illnesses or marginalized groups, to use tattoos as a way of claiming positive ownership of their bodies. So again, when we need to supplement our sense of feeling good about ourselves, we will reach to different ways of doing this. From a mind map perspective, I refer to them as defense mechanisms. And so when we are hurting, when we feel low self-esteem, when we've experienced a loss, when we've experienced death, breakup, and so on, we may want to defend against these feelings by doing something to make ourselves better. So you can begin to see that these tattoos functions in various ways for various people. In terms of another function, in this way, tattooing can serve to heal, to empower, and to promote body acceptance and self-esteem. Let's talk about self-esteem. What is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the positive encoding of an individual. It is the good enough mothering that then creates a feeling of good enough self. The self-esteem is built by the first few years of life, starting right there, having good enough mothering, the attachment theory of Dr. Bowlby serving as a template for nurturance, skin contact, eye contact, consistency, and so on. And then over time, it's reinforced by parental and societal messages that the child is good enough, that the child is being mirrored and attuned to and regarded. And if this sense of self-esteem is not really built in that child, then there will be different ways that person will grow up to try to gain a sense of self-esteem. And now you can see that tattoos and piercings can play into that and help the person to reclaim or to claim this feeling of being empowered and good enough. On the flip side, researchers have found that for some, tattoos serve as painful reminders of poor choices, rashness, intoxication, failed relationships, and other profound regrets. Now, not everyone will regret having a tattoo put on their body. Obviously, some people will regret it. Some people will get a tattoo on impulse. Other people think these things through for a really long time before they decide to go to the I don't even know what they call them, the tattooer, and go and have that image put on their body. Some report feelings of embarrassment or discomfort about how others might view them because of their tattoos, and these feelings can contribute to negative body image and low self-esteem. I remember a patient of mine who carefully placed his tattoos in places that he can easily cover them up, because when he went on his job, he didn't want other people to stigmatize him as having tattoos. So he had to make sure that wherever they were easily hidden. And he was embarrassed when he rolled up his sleeves too high and some of the tattoo was showing. So if you're going to get a tattoo, I think it's wise not to get one when you're intoxicated. It's wise not to get one on impulse. It's a good idea to think it through. It's a good idea to ask yourself a few questions like why you're getting this tattoo, what's the meaning for you behind the tattoo. Of course, you want to go to somebody who is safe and clean and knows what he or she is doing. You want to make sure that the needles are clean, or so on and so forth. So another way people morph their bodies is a process called scarification. So scarification is something that started on a cross-cultural level. And scarification is a practice and a part of an initiation in some cultures in puberty rites throughout the world, and it involves the cutting or sometimes the burning of the skin in ways designed to leave permanent scars. And again, ritualistic, maybe a rite of passage, maybe ways to signify a sense of belonging, a sense of status. Again, remembering that placement is important. The pain involved is the challenge. Sometimes going through the process of the pain is an initiation into manhood, adulthood, a way of showing their peers, their families, that they are able to and brave enough to weather the pain of the process. The scars often form intricate patterns across the skin. Because scarification is a physically demanding and painful process, it almost replicates in some sense a sense of sadomasochism, and other subcultures stress that the experience itself is pleasurable, cleansing, and transformative. And we have a caller. So hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy.
Hey, Dr. Judy. I'm from the Northwest, and we have tattoo parlors on every corner.
Wow, where do you live?
I'm up in the Portland area.
Okay, all right. So tell me about the tattoo parlors. Tell me about who goes there that you're observing. What popular tattoos are they requesting? And what do you think about some of the analysis that I've been doing here about tattoos? I'd like to hear your take.
I have no tattoos, and
tattoos.
I personally see it as a rebellious or fad, or maybe peer pressure in this area, because people, and the tattoos are getting have nothing to do with cultural background or any of the things you discussed. They're just becoming blatantly in your face, and I feel so sad for some of the young kids that are getting them, because they don't realize what an impact it has on other people when you're presented to them, and often they're working in the coffee shops or wherever.
Yeah.
And they don't look clean. A lot of them are done poorly. The inks are smearing after a while, that you can't even tell what they originally started out with.
Okay.
And now it's kind of it's gotten to the point of ridiculous, and a lot of people think, oh, I look so good in my tattoo, and they're wearing the most unusual clothes to try to show their tattoos off. And to me, I think these people are weak in their mind, because they don't have enough confidence to not go along with the group and get involved in this fad. And my wife watches that show, Say Yes to the Dress, and you have these beautiful brides. They turn around, they want to show off this back tattoo, which is some ugly thing, and I think, oh my God, it makes the white dress just look completely ridiculous.
And I'm sorry, I didn't ask, what is your name, please?
Dale.
Dale, thank you. I think that people, obviously, some people who are listening to the show and have tattoos are going to be thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that man is saying that, because they're very, very proud of their tattoos, and indeed they think the tattoos are beautiful. Your point is well taken in the sense that sometimes people really don't have perspective in terms of whether that tattoo is for example, even well done? Okay, is the ink running? Is the artwork clear and clean? Is it something that's going to dignify them and help them to present an image that other people might think is maybe a higher self-esteem image? What are you noticing? What are the tattoos that you're seeing that people are signing up for?
There's thousands of them, but
Yeah.
they have many of them. I mean, I'll admit I love a well done piece of art that might have had some thought to it, but they're just covering their body, and you look at it and you hate to stare,
Yes.
but you're trying to understand what was the thinking or what is the image, and 9 times out of 10 I can't even get a thought as to what I'm looking at. It's not even a pattern, and there might be some kind of a wording or something, and they think they're cute and they think they look good, and we live in a culture now where you can't say anything. You don't
can't
have
say anything.
the right to have an opinion.
So
I'm expressing my opinion. I'm just letting people know there are a lot of people out there who judge you on your tattoo and think, and I'm not at a stage now where I'm retired, but if I were in an employment situation, I would definitely be prejudiced against people with tattoos.
Well, here's an interesting piece of information for you. The Journal of Psychosomatic Research has discovered that tattooing and body piercing have been associated with dangerous and sometimes lethal risk-taking behavior such as eating disorders, self-loathing, substance abuse, depression, and social alienation. And so it does make some intuitive sense that if someone is actually disrespecting their body in a way that they're presenting their body as looking unclean or taking high risks of going to, well, you said there was a tattoo salon at every corner there in Portland?
Oh, it's getting as bad as Starbucks. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so, I think in terms of human disconnect, and I really believe that the more disconnected we feel, the more we lack that sense of belonging, and the more we have to tattoo ourselves as a culture to get that skin contact, to get that self-esteem. It makes sense. You're basically, when you're putting on a tattoo, you have to think about what you're telegraphing the community. And I think that's part of what you're saying, is that a tattoo is a form of communication. So if research says that it's associated with dangerous and sometimes lethal risk-taking behavior, such as eating disorders, self-loathing, substance abuse, depression, and social alienation, and I've seen this in my practice, that it is. So, not to say that everyone who has a tattoo has this type of psychopathology and these types of addictions. It is so that the tattoo and the type of tattoo and the placement of the tattoo and the age of the person and so on is going to telegraph some sort of communication to the public, and I think that's what you're speaking to. Yes.
Well, let's look at a parallel. The caution that people are now being told: hey, be careful what you write on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever the medium that you use, because it'll be with you forever.
Right.
That's a classic example of a tattoo.
Yes.
I mean, and people just think, oh, well, I'll be cool and I'm going to get one, and then they get carried away and they get talked into another one, and before you know it, but they don't realize that the human body is quite a beautiful thing by itself. You can adorn it with whatever fashion you want, but it doesn't have to be permanent. And I just feel that you're showing your either immaturity, your insecurity, your lack of self-confidence, because you've got to somehow embolden yourself with your mark and look at me. And are you crying out for people to look at you? Is that another thing too? I mean, even people who overdo jewelry, which they can take off and on, can look foolish. But I think some of the people with the tattoos, that's like in your face. And now we're in this culture where you can't even say, hey, you want to, you're telling me in my face, well, I don't like it. Well, then you're a bad person. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to have the right and keep my right to judge you for who you are and the decisions you've made, just as if you wrote something stupid on Facebook or
That's right.
Twitter.
Writing on your body, writing on Facebook, the messages that you want to communicate today, the place that you are at today at age 16, 17, whatever age, may not be who you want to be when you're 28 or 50, 60, right? And these faded tattoos, the beautiful tattoo on your navel at age 18 may not look the same at age 83. Do you really want it there at age 83? So I think that people need to have a much bigger picture here of, I'm getting something that's permanent. Will I like it today?
I'm not talking about the simple little heart or the butterfly or something like that.
Exactly.
These are some just outrageous things, and if you were to do some secret focus groups where people wouldn't have to be set on a firing squad for exercising a free right of speech, which is what we are today, you would find out that 99% of the people would think, man, what a foolish move on your part for putting that thing on your body.
Yes.
And I don't think, I mean, I'm just going to stand up and say it. I'm one of these guys that just, I'm kind of tired of trying to be the politically correct silent majority. I'm just going to say it. I don't like it. And I'll get off the phone and let other people, because I see on the comments on the quick chat, they're saying that's his opinion. Well,
it is your opinion. And, you know, everyone's entitled to an opinion, and everyone has a different relationship to their tattoo. So it's not across board that every single tattoo is a symbol of rebellion or a sign that you're a sociopath or a member of a gang and so on. I want to refer, just before you get off the phone, I want to tell you that the most watched episodes on the Dr. Judy WTF YouTube episodes, topics about narcissism, topics about personality disorders. And why is this happening? Because we're disconnected. And the more we're disconnected from, the more we hurt, the lower our self-esteem, and the more we need to pump ourselves up with drugs, sex, rock and roll, tattoos, whatever it is that are going to make us feel better temporarily in the long run, and so on. So I do appreciate your bluntness. I love bluntness. I'm pretty blunt myself. So thank you very much for your opinion.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for calling in. Okay, so tattoos, body piercing, other forms of body modification are becoming increasingly popular, especially with young people. A tattoo is a graphic symbol on the skin created by the introduction of ink, as you know. So sometimes it even involves cutting into the cartilage. And so just to source it, this particular piece of information is from Psychology Today, a blog on Psychology Today. I want to go back a little bit more into why people tattoo themselves, and please do call in. And for those of you who are commenting, feel free to call me, because this is a controversial subject. It's a divisional kind of thing. Some people hate tattoos. Some people love tattoos. And so I want to hear from people who do have tattoos and what your relationship to your tattoo is. I remember doing a show on, I think I got interviewed on one of these news broadcast shows, and it had to do with the basketball player. I'm blanking on it. Anyway, he lost his one of the Kardashian sisters married to the basketball player who ended up in the hospital, and he had a big tattoo on his body of a child that he lost. So sometimes these symbols are very, very significant. And for those of you listening, it might be painful when somebody says, ugh, look at that tattoo, because it's not ugh for you. It represents your connection with your deceased son or your deceased daughter, or the broken heart over a loss of a loved one. So here are some reasons people do tattoo themselves. Emphasis is given to 3 groups of factors determining the acquisition of a tattoo. Number 1, the desire to stand out. Number 2, emphasizing individuality. Number 3, being part of a group. And I will add more to it now that I know more. I would say number 4, forming a connection to somebody that is significant to you. And I'm going to add 5, based on attachment theory and my passion for healing human disconnect, the desire for skin to skin. And our lack of connection, the lack of skin to skin contact is creating what I refer to as a hole in the soul. And so we're trying to fill this hole in the soul. And I think that tattoos in some cases may be a way to compensate for and coat one's skin with symbols, with significance, with being included. So that's my take from a mind map perspective. Some more research on tattoos. Research on tattoos reveals some very interesting findings. And please remember, this is a call-in show. Please call in 323-843-2826. Some of you in the chat room chatting it up, come chat with me. And let's have some interesting discussion about this. I know there are a lot of takes on the subject. 323-843-2826. You can even call in anonymously if you don't want to use your name. That's fine. Just use another name. Adults with tattoos have been shown to be more sexually active than controls without tattoos. It kind of makes sense from a boundaries point of view. If you look at panel number 5, defense mechanisms, I often talk about our boundaries as representations of our cell membrane. Some of us are permeable, some of us are non-permeable, some of us are semi-permeable. And I'll take the caller and I'll explain further. Hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy, who is calling in, please.
This is Terry.
Hi, Terry. I'm going to wait till that background noise is done.
Okay.
What happened there?
That's probably because I'm watching the show.
Okay. I'm sorry. Your name is?
Terry.
Hi, Terry. Thank you for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, very cool. You know, I'm from Montreal, Canada, so my neighbor there.
I lived in Montreal for 9 years.
See, now I know you really did, because true Montrealers don't say Montreal, they say Montreal, so I know.
Montreal, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. So, okay, so do you have tattoos?
Yes, I do. I have several.
Okay, tell me about it, because now you've heard this body of research, the controversies, the comments from Dale. So what do you think, and what are they all about, and what do they represent to you?
Well, for me, like I got my first tattoo when I was 19.
Okay.
19. And I didn't get my second one until 2 years later. Mm-hmm. And I now have 15 tattoos, but I'm 39, and I only started getting the larger amounts in my 30s.
Okay.
And for me, like, it's always something I found attractive and beautiful, because I'd see some beautiful pieces of art, and it was something that look was always something I loved.
Okay.
And, it's a self-expression, it's unique, it's different, and all that. And it's just, and for me, because like I was not someone that had a lot of money in my life, so the tattoos I have, there was a lot of thought put into them.
Yes.
And they mark times in my life. Like when I look at my tattoos, it brings me back to that time. It's like a symbol of like a time I went through, and there's like I'm a spiritual person, so a lot of my tattoos have spiritual significance.
Yes.
And it's just, for me, it's a thing. Like, I do admit, and I agree that some people, I even myself, like, have asked, like, in my head, like, what were you thinking? You know, and
Okay.
like, where did you go to get that done? Like, you know, like, I'm not denying that there are people like that out there. You know, that even myself that loves tattoos and piercings, I'm like, what were you thinking? You know, like, what was going on in your mind to go for that?
Are you saying that some of the tattoos that you have, you look at and think to yourself, oh, wow, that one I wish I would have skipped on?
Oh, no, because that's the thing, because of like, I'm saying with some people that I have seen, because there's some, like, tattoos that, like, obviously the artist it wasn't really an artist that did it, you know, like, it wasn't well done, and it's just like, you know, like, there's things like cartoon character tattoos that I have a large distaste for, because I find it very childish, and, you know, so like there's things like that I would never gravitate to, because I just find it, like, when you get, like, cartoon characters, it's, like, very childish to me. But, like, for me, because like, a large part of my life, I didn't have much money, but I always loved tattoos. So when I was able to afford a tattoo, there had been so much thought put in to what I was getting.
So the significance to you is something different than what we've been talking about. It's a way of beautifying, adorning yourself.
And marking a passage in my life, a time in my life that I overcame something that, like, that's when, like, it just so happened that the time I overcame some challenge, I would have enough money to get a tattoo, and because I put so much thought already in what I was getting, I'm like, well, this is great, because, like, this tattoo is going to symbolize the closing of this chapter of my life, like, this, like, what I overcame, what I went through.
Yes.
And like this, that's what my tattoos mean to me. Like, I have tattoos of, like, the alchemist, and, like, references, like I have very
symbolic, meaningful, symbolic and meaningful.
And, like, I have only 2 tattoos that have writing on it, but one's, like, on my lower back that you can never see, and then there's one on my forearm that's, like, it says awaken, like, it's just like waking up.
So when you look at when you look at your tattoos and you look at the markings as symbols of passages of time, of overcoming events, of remembrances, of sayings that you want to remember. When you look,
that I conquered, and that I overcame, and, like, for me, like, I when I see them, like I have quite a few that sometimes, because it's my own body and I see them all the time, I forget, and then sometimes, like, I'll rediscover a tattoo, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it'll bring me all back to what I went through, and
I see.
I got that tattoo.
So very different than some of the other ways tattoos are used. And so if we go into the body of the research and go back to some of these notes that I pulled up and say, oh, so do you have eating disorders? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? Do you have attachment disorders and so on?
I did have an eating disorder that I overcame. I did come from a very abusive home, which is why I watched Dr. Judy. Because I come from a psychopathic, sociopathic family, but I'm someone, like, I was scapegoated in my family because I was the one that was trying to heal myself.
Yes.
I was the one trying to deal with my issues and getting lots of therapy. Like, I had bulimia nervosa because I developed an eating disorder, but I went into treatment when I was 22. Like,
so you've done a lot. You've done a lot of work.
Yeah, I did
on
3
yourself.
months intensive treatment that I was, like, in the hospital 5 days a week.
Isn't
for
it?
That, like,
wow. Okay. So you have really worked on yourself, and you want to continue to grow. And so your perspective on tattoos is different than some of the comments and, like, some of the information that I'm reading about.
I've gotten most of my tattoos, the larger amount of them, later in life after I've done a lot of work on myself.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
I'm still planning on getting more tattoos, you know? So it like when I was really suffering and really in the throes with my issues from my family and all that, like I only had like 2 tattoos at that time.
So I want to ask you something, and then I'll see if I could take other callers, because I want to leave a little more time for information and other callers. And I really appreciate your take on this. So what do you think of the idea that tattoos help to heal the wounds of childhood and are a way of bringing some kind of skin-to-skin contact for people who haven't been properly nurtured, loved, mothered, parented, etc.? What do you think of that idea? Because of course you know that's how I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I listening to the show. Like I was hearing a lot of perspectives that I had not heard, and I do agree that because of having a psychopathic mother and sociopathic father, like there was no affection, no touching. So
yes.
I can understand the concept that of wanting to cover my body. Like when that was said, that resonated.
It did
with
resonate.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some resonance for me.
Yes.
But it does not deter the fact that for me, it's something I see as beautiful.
Yes.
That it's like a mark of passage in my life.
In your
but
life,
like I can understand that, like these psychological.
The implications.
And also reclaiming your body.
Yes,
and
like the rape victim that I talked about.
That was another thing that resonated very strongly with me, is saying, I choose to do this to my body. I'm taking power, my own power, and I'm choosing to do this to my body. Because I'm someone who, I have very vibrant hair color usually. I've had several piercings, and now I have a lot less than I used to. But when that was something that resonated strongly, because it was, for me, it was always something like, I'm doing this because it's
you're reclaiming
your hair,
your
body.
Okay, I'm gonna move on so I could read a little bit more of the research, make some other comments, do a little bit more mind mapping. I really appreciate your comments. I can totally understand your perspective on it, and I also understand that it's multi-determined. It's not just the wounds of childhood, it's commemoration, it's adornment, it's interesting, it's artwork, remembrances. Thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate your comments on this.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, take care. Bye. Okay, it's a pretty rich topic here. I'm going to go back to some more research. So, research on tattoos reveals some more interesting findings. More sexual activity among adults who have tattoos. That's interesting. Higher risk behaviors. Women are more than twice as likely to get them removed as men. So I guess they regret these tattoos more than men regret the tattoos. Another study showed that both men and women have higher body appreciation, higher self-esteem, and lower anxiety right after getting a tattoo. So it does give you an adrenaline rush. Surprisingly, however, 3 weeks later, men continue to have less anxiety, but women have a sharp increase in anxiety after having a tattoo. That's a very interesting distinction. Our society craves individuality and self-expression, so it makes sense that there are many burgeoning tattoo parlors, many ways that people are expressing themselves through writing on their body. They wear it as a form of artistic expression, as our last caller mentioned. And since we're having more trouble communicating, as Dale mentioned, Facebook, writing on social media, now we don't only write on social media, we can also write messages all over our bodies. So rather than say it and write it, all you have to do is look at the person and their walking messages of these representations. So the research is also showing that we're more prone now to expression, more prone now to instant messaging, and that's a form of instant messaging, I would say. Tattoo addiction is not formally recognized even as a behavioral addiction. However, some people describe the process of getting more and more tattoos as a kind of addiction. I would say that if you're not eating, if you're not paying your bills, if you're taking high risks to get that tattoo in spite of the consequences, then you're probably looking at an addiction. Just because you're getting a tattoo, just because you're getting many tattoos, it doesn't mean that you're addicted to getting tattoos. I think addiction is a way to describe very, very risky behaviors that you cannot stop, and it's at the expense of oneself. Financial and emotional commitment. In a similar way to being a drug user, a tattoo collector involves big financial commitment. So it looks like it's big money. Portland, the people in Portland, all the corners, I guess everybody's making a lot of money. It seems to me that a few tattoo parlors in one city would be plenty, but apparently not. It looks like there's plenty to go around. Very popular up there, apparently. It involves financial commitment, obviously, physical discomfort, social stigma at times, and also it's requiring a devotion to the process, because sometimes the tattoos unfold stories and so they get embellished over time. This level of commitment is an important part of all addictions. And again, just because you're getting a tattoo doesn't mean you're an addict, right? So look at what it means to be sacrificing for your tattoos. If you're not feeding your children, if you're not feeding yourself, if you're not paying your bills, and you're using that money to get a tattoo, I would say there's a problem. Okay, spiritual process. Just like the last caller talked about, it's very spiritual, and going back to cross-cultural ways tattoos were used, ritualistically speaking, cross-culturally, and through the thousands of years of human history, culturally, people use tattoos to represent some sort of spiritual connection to an animal, some sort of spiritual connection to seasons and so on. And I know we have another caller. And hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy. And that'll be the last call. I didn't know the time went by so quickly. I'm going to shrink a tune in a second. Go ahead, ask your question.
Well, I am calling to say that I'm a grandmother and I have 2 tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I've come from a dysfunctional family, but at the time I was healing myself and got the art for the art aspect.
Yes.
Just like the last caller.
Yes. And any regrets?
No.
No regrets?
No, in fact, the one I got for me, it's hearts and daisies, and even the tattoo artist says daisies don't come up very good. You should get a different colored flower. I said, I like daisies, and that's what I want.
Yes, yes. And I'm sorry, what's your name, please?
Grandma Go-Go.
Okay. And where are you calling from?
Minnesota.
All right. I appreciate that. So I guess the consensus is really very, very varied, isn't it? Some people hate them, some people love them, but definitely there's a strong emotional attachment to the word tattoo, piercing, and so on. And so your grandma, these tattoos are how old on your body now?
16, 17 years old.
Okay. And so you don't regret it. And so,
No.
okay. And they mean
No, and
something.
mine are in spots that people can't see unless I want to show them off.
I see. Okay. All right. I really appreciate you calling in and sharing this and the fact that you've had them for a long time and you don't have regrets about them. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, if I can just say one more thing,
Sure.
is that I still would like to get another tattoo because my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, was stillborn.
Oh,
And I would like to
okay.
get another tattoo.
I'm so sorry
the,
for that. And I think I mentioned that sometimes it commemorates loss. So that's of significance to you. Okay.
Yes.
And thank you
And
for
I'm no
sharing
young
that.
spring chicken.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to shrink.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for calling in. I'm going to quickly shrink a tune. I know we only have a few minutes. And surprisingly, this song is called Last Tattoo by Rehab. And thank you, Heather, my song picker, for choosing this song. So I'm going to quickly analyze and shrink this tune. This may be my last tattoo to cover the memory of someone I thought I'd always need. Cover her name with a smoking gun. A little aggressive. Cover her name with a smoking gun. Make it hurt as much as possible and make it bleed. Just can't take it no more, feeling numb. Woke up face on the floor, I was dumb. So that's a way of controlling her body and her emotions, and it's a way of waking up the pain too, controlling the pain, the numbness. Cut me all the way to the core, morning comes. Time to get busy, forgetting again. Tired of going out of my mind. Looking for something I won't find. How could I have been so blind? This is a load of crap. It figures she would win, but I'll learn to feel again. Bear down hard when you fill it in. Give me the pain. I'll grit my teeth. This will be my last tattoo. So this person's tattoo is very emotional. To cover the memory of someone I thought I'd always need, cover her name with a smoking gun. Make it as hurt as much as possible. So sometimes we do things physically to externalize the internal pain. Sounds like this is what this is referring to. You know, when I woke up this morning, she was long, good gone. I thought she heard me say that she was my vertebrae, my backbone. Well, I guess this loss was a lot for this person to bear. But bone, the dawn feels wrong, the nights ain't right. The phone ain't on, and she broke out last night. Left a note saying she won't hang on, she just can't fight. So it makes sense that somebody would want to tattoo the person that was leaving as a way of not losing out on the person. I know she's with Brock Scott, that jock with blonde locks. So there it is. She feels devalued. She got replaced by something better. What a narcissistic injury that is. That locks shots gets, I'm just not that hot. Mailboxes for cocks. Let him bust your rear because you don't trust my rap career. But I need to point out our bank account with a large amount you left in the bank, you skank. What do you think? So a lot of bitterness, a lot of resentment. And I'm just going to cut to the end because I know we're out of time, correct? Yes, okay. I can't believe this. Said I caused the thing she did. Bear down hard when you fill it in. So the hole in the soul. Give me the pain, I'll grit my teeth. This will be my last tattoo to cover the memory of someone I thought I'd always need. Cover her name with a smoking gun. Wow. Make it hurt as much as possible. Make it bleed. Externalize the pain. Thank you so much for tuning in, Dr. Judy WTF. And anytime, contact me, the team. We offer free consultations. There's the mind map video. We have people who work on a sliding scale fee basis, and mind map treatment therapy is available and affordable to everyone. So please be in touch. And thank you so much for your comments, your call-ins, and mostly thank you so much for always asking wonderful, challenging questions. I'll see you next time. Good night.